serving with as the elemental of the earth with a motif of the gnome and part of a series of 4 known as the elementals. It is GNM00 Earth Crono, with a kit of counter guard, double guard, tank legs, and the leg ability of adversity, which buffs all leg stats, minus armor and heavy limit for every debuff applied to self. Now, as the solid and dedicated defender of the 4 series that is the elementals, and with a motif of the gnome, her defensive capabilities are honestly very clear right from start, and even though defenders like this I tend to grade somewhat harshly for a very basic kit, she honestly does use it moderately well to her advantage, that it does make some of her drawbacks relatively forgivable. Counter Guard is a defense-based skill that, as long as she's active on the field and sitting on the center line, she will intercept all incoming melee attacks and reflect the damage back to sender at 1/2 of the intended damage. Of course, this does mean that anyone using Destroy will instantly bypass this and go straight for a headshot and a kill shot. Right and left arm of guard are basic defense arms and essentially as simple as they come. As simply put, it will plant Earth Chrono on the center line where she intercepts all incoming blows, no matter what kind they are, and her damage reduction is entirely reliant on her shoot and her melee resist to keep the damage as low as possible. Now, normally this is kind of where it ends for basic guard, as that's kind of the end of the story, so if you're not very well rounded with your defense, your shield is basically going to last 2 or 3 turns at best. But for the sake of Earth Chrono, her having tank legs does actually work to an additional advantage, and that's the fact that tank legs have a passive 30% damage reduction just for them being tank legs. And in addition, because they are tank legs, it means that she will have no issue with terrain compatibility, as she really has no advantage or disadvantage on any terrain no matter what, which means that her performance as a defender will be very consistent across the board. So that means even with basic guard, she is going to be relying not just on her basic shoot and melee resist for damage reduction, but she's also going to have a passive 30% on top of that chopped off the top, just because of her tank legs. Now, as a defender built the way she is going to have a very high HP pool, which means taking her down will not be as easy as it looks unless you manage to hit her with, say, no defend, or even, say, deathlock, or even hit her with destroy once she has a shield in place and just bypass it entirely. That being said, the leg ability of adversity does kind of work to her advantage though, as it means that the more licks that she takes in battle, whether that be from conventional hits or even from someone trying to use an ailment skill, these will kind of fuel her will to keep protecting her allies, as it means it will buff her stats, which means she'll be harder to kill, higher defense, and just a little bit higher speed overall too, the more debuffs that she has effective on her, as long as she stays alive on the field. That being said, despite this though, as a pure set, I would unfortunately have to grade Earth Chrono a pretty solid 4 out of 10, and arguably the lowest graded of the 4 elementals with her sisters, given that even though her defense skills are definitely nothing to be sneezed at, the fact that their basic guard honestly does serve as more of a hindrance than it could be to Earth Chrono's advantage, and the fact she also has counter guard gives her more of a dedicated preference towards guarding attacks from melee fighters more than essentially anyone like her arms would. As mixed parts though, I would definitely have to bump her up just a little bit more at a 4.5 out of 10. Now, if you are hell-bent on using Earth Chrono as is or as close to a pure set as possible, it would honestly be encouraged that you would maybe switch the arms out for, say, guard 300 or guard 500, so that she can get a little bit more damage reduction working to her advantage. Because the more of that she has, the harder it is for her to die, and the much more of an annoyance she will be by intercepting all the incoming blows.